OTAs are starting for the Chicago Bears, and we're going to take a look at some of the most important things to watch out for in OTAs. On top of that, some places have the Bears roster ranked above the Green Bay Packers. We're going to talk about the newfound kind of expectations around the Chicago Bears overall as well. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. And so OTAs are starting, and I just want to go over some of the most important things to watch out for in OTAs. And the first thing on the list is going to be the offense, right? To hear what we're going to learn and what we see. On top of the offense, who shows up, who doesn't. Last year, I believe Jalen Johnson missed OTAs last year, as well as Nate Davis with personal issues. But considering there's a new offense, a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, I think the first thing to kind of look at is who all does show up for the Chicago Bears to help kind of build that chemistry, right? So while OTAs are not mandatory, and that's completely fine, and it doesn't have the hugest bit of impact on like starting positions, things like that, it's going to kind of be interesting to just see who shows up to kind of help build that part, right? And the offense overall is one of the most important things to look for. Caleb Williams, the chemistry that he builds with his veterans, chemistry that he builds overall with every member of that offensive side of the ball, I think is going to be hugely important to watch and see what we hear from that. Now, you got to take everything that we do hear from OTAs with a grain of salt, right? You can have a great OTA session. We can hear great things. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to translate on the football field once you're playing other teams. I think we heard a lot of things last year about the defense being really good to start off, and then we saw how the defense was to start the season, right? So, but more so, like I said, more so than trying to correlate it to what the success level is going to be in the regular season, more so looking for myself on what is the chemistry that's built, right? How does Caleb Williams show, improve, and really kind of, earn the respect of those veterans as well? So that's a big thing. On top of that, this is the first time the Bears are going to have a new quarterback in 3 years, right? When you look at with Justin Fields. And so with Justin Fields already having that rapport with the Chicago Bears and, a lot of the teammates here really loving him. And it's not to make it about Justin Fields, but Caleb Williams, this is his time to grow and develop his own chemistry with those guys. And I've given him tons of credit. He's done great work to already build that, working out with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, even Cole Kmet, asking those guys to come out to California to work out with him. Those are all great things, but you still got to look at it, right? How does with everybody overall and that outside of just the wide receiver core, the tight ends and Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, right? The running backs and Swift and Roshan Johnson and Khalil Herbert, right? All those things. It's going to be 7-on-7 drills, but I think you can still kind of learn a lot of the mechanics as far as with your wide receiver core if you're a quarterback. And overall, just what we hear from Caleb Williams. Like, I get it. We all know who kind of Caleb Williams is at this point, right? As far as like the expectations for him, right? He's going to continue to develop, hopefully, as an NFL quarterback. But, we have our own expectations. But just to hear, like, in reality, what does he do? What stands out from him, right? Our coach is continually impressed by his arm strength or his decision-making, those type of things overall. And then also on the offensive side of the ball, we got a big decision to make on that center position. While right now I think Coleman Shelton is projected to be the starting center for the Chicago Bears, it's still kind of an open competition. Doug Kramer's coming in to hopefully the training camp OTAs fully healthy on top of that. It's going to be a competition at that center position. And while, Coleman Shelton's probably the favorite right now to come out of it, listen, we know one thing that has been very consistent with Matt Eberflus while he's been the head coach of the Chicago Bears is that it's all about performance. It's all about that. Regardless if you're first year, second year, whatever it is, it's about that performance. And if you perform, if you turn heads and do what this coaching staff asks of you to do, you can earn a role, regardless of draft position or anything like that. So between now and August, where the season starts, they're going to be looking at different things on that offensive line. And the center is one of the first things there. And then, of course, Braxton Jones, right? We got to look at Braxton Jones as well. Braxton Jones was a backup coming into OTAs a couple of years ago. And then now being able to, he won that starting position. Same thing between Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, right? Who's going to come out as the starter at that center position, I think, is a big deal. And while, we haven't done necessarily what we wanted at that center position yet, and there's questions about the offensive line. The offensive line was actually graded pretty well. We'll talk about that here in another segment also. Or you know what? We'll get into it now. We're talking about the offensive line. Why get into anything else with it? So there are power rankings done of the offensive lines in the NFL, and the Bears were ranked at number 20. And so, that kind of is kind of expected. But one of the things from Lou, a direct quote here says this: nowhere on the O-line is there a real liability for the Chicago Bears, but it's not a great unit at all. Caleb providing better QB play than Justin Fields should take some strain off this starting five. The O-line is still a bit of a work in progress, though. So, even though it didn't rank at the bottom in the NFL, it's still towards the bottom of the NFL, right? And I have always had this, my mindset on the offensive line is that I get it. We didn't address it in the way that a lot of Bears fans hoped. But I think health, right? If this team if this offensive line can stay healthy more, getting Nate Davis out there more, building the camaraderie, right? The chemistry and continuity between those players, getting Tevin Jenkins to stay healthier. I think that this is a really solid offensive line. Is it great? No. Do we want a great offensive line? Yeah, we got a shiny new quarterback. We want to keep his jersey as clean as possible. But it didn't rank maybe as low as what some people had thought. And the fact that Lou mentioned in that, hey, the quarterback play as well may be something that differentiates the performance of the offensive line. Take that for what you will. But I think overall the style of play, right, more than just that, is that having Shane Waldron here now as the offensive coordinator, knowing that this is going to be a team that runs more under center now than what we did last year with running so much from the shotgun and stuff like that. So I think those things are definitely going to help. The offensive line maybe perform better as well. It's going to give the quarterback more time, but we'll see how that develops. But then as far as getting back to OTAs, one of the other things to look out for in OTAs is the wide receiver and defensive backs. Like, these are two extremely strong position groups for the Chicago Bears, and iron sharpens iron. The practices between having Jalen Johnson out there with all the other cornerbacks that we have in that wide receiver core, that's going to be something that could help forge greatness from both the units, right? So, the Kyler Gordons and the Tyreek Stevensons and all that, having that defensive back group come against Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and in OTAs and every day in practice and training camp, things like that. Hopefully that helps both groups be much more ready to go by the season starting. And I think you're going to hear some really good battles. And what was it last year? Was it Kyler Gordon and who got into it? I believe it was some teammates that got into it. Maybe it was a year or two ago. You don't want to hear anything like that, but you do want to hear that the competition between those two and how those groups help each other strengthen each other, right, in each group. So, having Rome Odunze line up with Tyreek Stevenson theoretically, Keenan Allen with Kyler Gordon, right, those type of things, DJ Moore with Jalen Johnson, that's going to be something. The fact that these guys are going to be having reps against each other every single practice in offseason, every single practice in OTAs, that's something, man, that it could really help both groups grow a whole hell of a lot as well. And then the last thing to kind of look out for is cuts, right? I don't know if any major cuts, a lot of people have speculated that people like Larry Borum, Dominique Robinson could absolutely be cut. They're going to be cuts, and they're going to be some tough ones, right? And they're going to be some ones that I think we don't expect either. And it may not happen necessarily in OTAs. They may want to go through a full training camp, things like that before you get there. But you'll start getting kind of feels on who may be on the bubble, who may be on the outs with this coaching staff, who this coaching staff doesn't necessarily believe in as much as well. Those are all things that could come out in OTAs, as well as also the adjusting to the new kickoff returns, right? The new rules there. Velus Jones is somebody who people think could really benefit from the new kickoff returns. I have my questions, right? Not because of the drops or anything, but because he's somebody who he used that extra space to kind of get up to speed. But, we'll see how Velus, if he makes this team, which he does have an opportunity, and I'm not going to act like he's for sure going to be cut, but it's going to be first by making an impact on the special team side of the ball. And if he can do that, man, I think that's going to be really big for him. It's going to be big for the Bears. Special teams could become something that kind of makes more of a difference than what I think people realize, in the sense that it's just not going to be a forgotten part of it, right? You already got Taylor now being our punter, which is already going to change some things in that aspect. If we can also get solid return game from whoever the returner is at that point, that could be something that also helps our offense with the shorter field, things like that, and take advantage. So that's overall, OTAs is an exciting time period, because we're going to start hearing more and more about who is stepping up, who are the coaches kind of wowed by, right? Who may be getting passed up on the depth chart, right? It gives a lot of room for speculation. But the time between now and the preseason starting is some of the most important time because this is when you're kind of forging and kind of understanding what your rotations are going to be, things like that. And who may be, like I said earlier, who may be cut, who makes the roster, who comes in maybe and surprises the coaches. So that's OTAs are an exciting time period for the people that watch. I know everybody's waiting and ready for preseason, and I can't blame you guys. I'm ready for actual football to get started as well, but we still got some things to get excited about here in Chicago with OTAs starting. But with that said, we also got some details. The Chicago Bears will be holding a joint practice with the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2. So that's before the week 2 matchup. This comes from Nicholas Moreno from CHGO Bears. And I think listen, those joint practices are good. And you know, I know some people have some issues with it and how hard are you competing and things like that. But I think seeing how you stack up against another team, right? Having those full practices against a team that, you know, they're not your teammates, right? Not to say that they're out there trying to kill you, because there's a respectability about it to where they're not trying to kill you and no damn team joint practices, but it is a different level of competition. I think that is something kind of get a nice barrier of where you sit at. And the Bears have some really some tough potential preseason matchups, you know, as much as you expect starters or whatever to play in the preseason. So, you know, just wanted to point that out, especially when you look at like T. Higgins and stuff and Jamar Chase up against the Bears secondary. That's going to be fun to see, especially in practices. So we'll see what happens with that one, y'all. But before we go, I wanted to talk about Nick Wright of Fox Sports had, initially said that the Bears could go to the Super Bowl this year. Then you look at Bleacher Report and David Kenyon there, who says the Bears are the most overrated team in the league, which I don't know how the Bears are overrated right now. We ain't done shit. Nobody's picking us to do anything. But right now, there's a view on the Bears that there are more eyes on it, right? And there are serious now expectations for the Chicago Bears team. You look at, for example, ESPN and NFL.com had the Bears ranked at 16th and 19th in their power rankings, right? The Bears, there's no doubt about it. The Bears' star is on the rise. The expectations around the Bears, as I keep saying, is definitely something that's growing. Well, to add to that, there's a ranking done on judging rosters without quarterbacks. This was done by ProFootballNetwork.com, and this is full rosters minus quarterbacks. And the Chicago Bears ranked surprisingly, high on that ranking. We got ranked as the 7th best roster in the NFL without taking quarterbacks into consideration. Now, one could say that your quarterback play is such a big part of that type of evaluation. How can you leave your quarterback play out of it? And that's granted, right? But the Bears actually ranked above the Green Bay Packers in that sense. And here's what I say. I know I see a lot of people who say things like the Bears are going to, even some Bears fans, the Bears are going to suck this year. The Bears are going to, that remains to be seen. We'll see what comes to the Bears, but let's make no mistake about it. The Bears are in one of their best positions as a roster with talent that we've been in almost the last 5-6 years, maybe even longer than that. And so with that comes its own expectations. And, while the Bears have their expectations internally, Bears fans have their expectations externally of what they want to see the Chicago Bears do. I think it all comes down to how this team comes together, how the coaching staff has this team ready. And I just want to say this, and I know I made a declaration last season as well that the Bears were coming. And I felt very confident about that Chicago Bears team because that's my team. The changes that the Bears made now, that may be why I'm a little bit more pessimistic. You guys hear me say the phrase a lot on paper, right? But we have an extremely talented team on paper. It's up for the players, the coaching staff, and everybody to all bring it together. But this could be one of those seasons where, as Bears fans, we got a lot of excitement to talk about. We have a lot of good to talk about. That we start beating some of these opponents, and it starts in the NFC North. Well, not really, because we don't play our own NFC North opponents till week 11. But when you look at it internally in our division first, there are a lot of tough matchups in this division. This is going to be one of the most competitive divisions, I believe, in the game of football next year as well. And the Bears have to make their move this year. You got the talent. You got the coaching staff, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, there's still some doubts around Matt Eberflus, but we've seen that the defense has improved under him. It's time. This is the time to start having expectations for you get voicemails from people like Darius who are like, well, Haize, is it okay to start having expectations of 13 wins? I'm not getting to that, right? It was only one team in the NFC last year that had 13 wins. I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried about the style of play. The Bears need to be competing for something this season. They need to be fighting for something. They need to be in games. And so, when you look at development that we're expecting from players, Tyreek Stevenson, I'm looking for him to make a leap this year. Kyler Gordon made a leap last year as well, but he still has room that he can grow. Also, that cornerback unit as a whole has time and room to grow. Also, Javon Dexter. The Bears not going out and getting the 3-tech says to me a lot about the expectations they have on how they feel he can perform at that 3-tech. Him and Zach Pickens, because they didn't really add anybody who's going to pass up Zach Pickens on that depth chart. The young players that we have on this team, the way that we're expecting them to step up is legitimate. Cole Kmet can make another leap this year as well, especially being in a Shane Waldron offense. It's a lot of eyes on the Bears, and there are a lot of reasons to believe and to think that the Bears are going to be much better than what they were last season, especially now starting off the season with Montez Sweat. And we saw overall how that addition helped the linebackers, helped the secondary, right? And that linebacking core. We got tackling machines in TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, and Jack Sanborn. It's time to start making our move. And I, for one, am very excited about the season for the Chicago Bears. And OTA started today. Let's start getting those details from it. We'll be covering it right here on Chicago Bears Central. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.